Hello and welcome to another video. Today I will show you how to overclock the 12th Gen Alder Lake CPUs, and the CPU we'll be using today is the Core i9-12900K, and the motherboard I will be using is the Asus ROG Strix Z690, a gaming Wi-Fi edition. And as always, we will begin by going into the BIOS. If you have a ASUS motherboard, you will probably see this screen, an easy mode screen. We will have to go into the advanced mode by pressing F7 and then go into the AI trigger. So here we can see all the settings for my 5.1 GHz overclock. I have enabled XMP, so my memory are running at the rated speed. In my case is 3600 MHz. And the next thing, I have actually touched the B clock, the base clock. You should never do that because it just makes the things unstable. But I only done this because I have a weird issue. If I'm running only 100 B clock, it will actually be 97 or 96 in the Windows. So this might get fixed on my motherboard later. But for now I have to run 100.2 to actually get 100 base clock in Windows. So you should just leave this as auto, don't touch it, just leave it at 100. And when you're going down, again DRAM frequency 3600, it will be a little bit over on mine because I have raised the B clock. When we're going to see, I'm going to change the P cores, I'm going to change to sync all the cores, and then I'm going to change to 51 because it's a 5.1 GHz overclock. The next thing we'll do is the same to the E cores, sync all cores, and a 40 for a 4 GHz overclock. And then we are going down to the VRM. I'm gonna be choosing level 4 for the load line calibration. This was the one that worked best out for me. I don't get that high of a V-droop. Then we are going to look at the cache. I'll be running a 4.4 GHz on the CPU cache ratio. So just type 44. It's a good baseline, it's a good start. Your CPU might run higher, might lower, but this is 4.4 is decent for a 24/7 overclock. And the last thing we're gonna look at is the CPU core voltage. You should stay around 1.36, 1.35, 1.37 if you're using water cooling. If you're using custom loop or just have really good temps, you can go up to 1.4, but I wouldn't recommend it for 24 daily use. And let's see. This is just DRAM that are setting by. And again, this is all just a baseline. This is my settings. You may have to manually tune it by yourself, so your CPU can maybe handle 5.1 GHz at 1.32 volts, maybe 1.37, but mine needs 1.36 volts. But let's get into the Windows. And now that we are booted into Windows, we will need to actually validate our overclock. I will be using a Benchmade. It has all the necessary software to actually monitor your CPU temps, validate your clocks, and even stress test. So when you open Benchmade, and I will put the link down in the description, you need to open CPU set, hardware info 64, sensors only, and Cinebench R23. In CPU set, you can actually see our CPU is running at 5 GHz when 5.1 GHz when it don't downclocks. And if you look at the cache, it's running at 4.4, and the memory is running at 3600 MHz as it should. Hardware info, we can see our core temps. P cores are running around 30, 42, and the same for the E cores right now. But this is under idle, it will increase a lot under load. And then we have Cinebench R23. Let's just try running as multi-core. Let's see how it actually performs. So we're running now at 5.1 GHz and a 4 GHz on the E-cores. And we are hitting around 74 degrees on the P-core, 60 on the E-cores, 76 on the P-core now. So we're getting a score of 28,000. That is a beautiful number right there. And we was hitting a maximum of 77 degrees, which is running on the custom water cooling, 1.36 volts. And again, this is just the baseline. It may vary. You may have to manually tune it by yourself. So this was actually just the overclocking. If you want to stress test the CPU, you can use Cinebench R23 and do a minimal test duration of 30 minutes. We do that 2 times. If it passes, well, I will say it's stable, because no game will ever require this much power as Cinebench R23 is doing. So, thanks for watching and see you in the next video.